Good evening and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam on this. We had no spring this year. We went right from spring right to summer, kind of. It's averaging 70 all of a sudden, which I'm not complaining. My car's giving me an issue. If you listen to the show, you know that. And what we're here to talk about is The Accountant 2. Now, one important piece of context that I feel I should share before we get too deep into this. I have never seen The Accountant 1. And I feel like that's an important piece of information. The Accountant 1 came out in, 2017? I don't know if Jon Bernthal was in the first one. I assume so. Because I keep referencing 8 years ago. So I assume that's all referencing the events of the first movie. Okay, fine. Got it. I mean, look, it's on me for not watching the first movie. I'm not going to say that. And not every movie has to be every comic is someone's first, in the words of Stan Lee. So, I get there are going to be things I don't get. But I think the majority of this movie is overlong. I think the majority of this movie is nonsensical. The plot doesn't make a ton of sense. And I think that the saving grace of this movie is the Jon Bernthal, just in general. I would just say the rapport between Jon Bernthal and what's his name, and Ben Affleck, but Jon Bernthal, just in general, is just having the fucking time of his life. He's chewing the scenery. He's here to have fun, and we're all just gonna go along on this ride with him. Like, it is great. It like that is all great. When he's not on screen, the movie is a slog. Like, is there something wrong with me? Maybe, like, I feel like this isn't the first time I've asked this question on this show, where it's like, we are now in the end of April. And I know, we have kind of, the beginning of the year is always kind of weak in terms of the release slate, where it's like, the good movies are the leftovers from last year, the Oscar nominees, that kind of thing. But right now, I'm at a loss, because we're getting close to July 1st. And I don't think there's any, there are very few movies that I think can definitively say these are in my top 5. Where, last year we had Dune, we had Challengers, we had, not by this point, but, we had Furiosa, which I really enjoyed. Was last year Lisa Frankenstein? Because I liked the merits of that for the most part, until you get to the end and it's kind of a little weird toward the end. But it's just one of those things where it's like, is it just movies are weaker now? This movie wasn't very good. And I think if it were any other actor playing that role opposite Ben Affleck and everyone else, I think it's just Jon Bernthal brings a charisma to this character that is just like, oh, he's great. I think without that, this movie is utterly forgettable, and it's just not good. There's so much in this movie that is clearly attempting to lean into that dynamic and lean into this character who is, fun and engaging and a blast to have on screen. That's all great, and I think they should have leaned into that, because that is what this is. But it takes so long to introduce them. And by the time you introduce them, I'm bored. Can we just get on with this? And it's we have, we're dealing with the Department of Treasury. What the fuck? It's just there's so much in this movie. And it's the plot lines are all weirdly overbroad and somewhat intersecting, but not really. There's... And the thing is, it's people just not know how to write a script anymore. Write a cohesive script. Because we had this. We had, what was that other one? Love Hurts, that movie with Ke Huy Quan, which was awful. We had, looking back, it's The Electric State, which I did not watch yet, but I have not heard anything positive about. Like, there are so many bad movies coming out, and it's at the point where I'm seeing all of this continually happen, and we just have these continuing movies just not good. And I'm just like, why? Like, even Captain America, I was very let down by, and it's like, is it me? But like, no, it's just like this year there's been Sinners, which has been very good, and then it's kind of just a race to the bottom, where like everything else is kind of just meh. Like, yeah, Andor is really good. I'm enjoying Andor. Yeah, Daredevil was really good. I'm enjoying Daredevil. The Last of Us so far is pretty good. I'm enjoying The Last of Us. The Rehearsal's good, but at the same time, I'm looking at this and I'm like, why are we languishing so much? Like, I know we're getting into a busy season. I talked about it yesterday in the roadmap. We're getting into the more busy season of November, of summer, the summer movie season, and really the early summer movie season, because it kind of tapers off by August. But like, I mean, we have Thunderbolts next week. We have, quite a few movies. It's like, I don't know, like, are we going to get to the top 5 and I'm going to have to do what Peter does every year? Because Peter doesn't go to the movies as often as I do, but I try to keep it strictly theatrical. And it's like, the last good big franchise movie I saw in a theater, I mean, the Minecraft movie was awful too. It's just like, I just feel like we're in this situation now where it's like, why is everything just kind of so bad? Is it just, are we making these big movies designed for streaming? Because that's what it feels like. And I know that sounds derogatory, and I'm saying this in a derogatory sense, that like, oh, well, clearly the reason why, these movies are bad is because they're made for streaming. And let me explain my rationale on that. We've had reports come out in the trades about various movies that are designed for streaming, and TV shows that are designed for streaming. And when these are written, what ends up happening is they are designed where you can watch them without paying attention. It is not important if you're looking at the TV. It is not important if you're in the same room as the TV. It's designed where you have to be able to, no matter where you are in the house, you can keep track of the plot of the movie. Which is why everything kind of feels like a Hallmark movie now. Where it's like, it's very dialogue driven. It's very, just kind of meh. And it's like, we have to make sure everyone knows. Which is how you end up with these weird sequences in like Love Hurts, which may not even be the title of the movie with Ke Huy Quan and Ariana DeBose. Like, that movie has these weird interstitials where they're talking in their heads, and or thinking, as some call it, and it's just like, oh, so they're going to explain what the motivation is for the scene, because the movie's not doing a good enough job of that. And it's kind of the, like this movie doesn't have that. Fortune Zero doesn't have that. But it has one thing that I think is kind of the most annoying thing that movies do now. It is symbolic character development. I'm going to call it, because I don't know if anyone's ever talked about this, but I'm going to break the metaphorical glass ceiling on this. That's not the right word. That's not the right word at all. We're gonna break the seal. That's what I meant to say. We're gonna break the seal on this. What I mean is, it is character development where you take something early on in the movie. You take a character and you have them have a problem, an internal problem, and you symbolize it with a physical totem in the real world. Say, a chair. So this movie has that. You have the lady who works in the Department of Treasury, who is played by Amanda Waller from Arrow, and which I'm going to take as a sign that we should do the Arrowverse in that. But she's playing this woman which works in the Treasury. She has this job. She's trying to get, she's trying to find the right chair, and she can't find the right chair. Okay, so that's the beginning of her plot. She can't find the right chair for her office. Then, like halfway through the movie, we get explicitly laid out for us what the chair is meant to represent. Because we, the audience, can't be trusted to figure that out on our own. Obviously, we need Ben Affleck to explain it to us. Oh, the reason you can't find the chair is because you feel you don't belong in the chair. Okay, cool. We've now laid out what her character's issue is. And then we get to the end of the movie, and she has now found a comfortable chair. The problem is, she never really went through anything to solve that issue. Because fundamentally, the issue that's posited is, I simplified it, but he says to her, like, yeah, you feel you don't belong in that chair because we always solve the problem for you. We give you the tips, we give you all the information. You feel that you don't deserve to be in that chair, and that's the issue, and that's why you can't find a comfortable chair. Okay, fine. Then you get to the end of the movie, and she finds a comfortable chair. The problem is, she didn't solve the crime. What needs to happen for something like that to work is, number one, you need to not explicitly lay it out for me, so that way we can figure it out on our own. Because a movie that came out 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we wouldn't have had a scene where you have the lead explaining to her what her character's dynamic is. Like, it's so patronizing to an extent. I think patronizing is the right word for this. Because it's like, you would never do this to a male character. Never in a million years would you sit here and be like, well, the reason why you can't find a comfortable chair is because you feel that we put you in that position and you don't deserve to be there. It's like, no, like, what the fuck? It's such a weird thing to do. So regardless, the point is, like, she doesn't solve the case. In fact, she's sidelined for a good amount of the movie. And then she has that moment where she gets the chair at the end. So it's meant to be like, okay, so we have the beginning of the arc, we have the laying out of what the arc should have been, and then the resolution of the arc. Symbolized by this chair. And I think that the chair kind of just symbolizes lazy writing in this way. That's what the chair symbolizes most of all. Because why have characters learn anything when you can give them a new chair? And be like, see, look, they learned something, they got a new chair now, see? Because we said they would be able to get a new chair when they learned something, they got a new chair, therefore they learned something. Good job, team, let's go home, let's order some Jimmy John's, and let's go, take a nap, and start working on the Accountant 3. Like, you're boiling the character down to an object. And not her being an object, but her arc is boiled down to an object. Which doesn't serve the character. That's the issue with this. And no other character has an arc in this movie. Because everyone else is exactly the same going in as they are leaving. And it's not one of these things where it's like you can do an intentionally static character. Intentionally static characters work all the time. Holden Caulfield is an intentionally static character. He's a character who does not believe that he's someone who is the same at the beginning of the movie and at the book and the end, with no desire to change, and that works. If you're gonna set up that arrangement, that will work a good amount of the time as long as it's intentional. Not every character needs to be dynamic. Not every character needs to go through a metamorphosis over the course of it. And you can have the character be stagnant, but the things around them need to change. And that doesn't happen here. And that's why this movie it just feels lazy. It feels phoned in. It feels like Amazon saying, hey, we have MGM, we need to come up with some big franchises. We can't do cinematic Lord of the Rings. We already did Wheel of Time there. Why are we going to option something? Ben Affleck made this movie 8 years ago. We can just throw him up on screen. People liked that the first time. It found an audience on TV in a big way. And don't get me wrong, I'm not discounting that. That's how a good amount of cult classics exist. Like, I said it after watching If last year. Was that last year or was that 2 years ago? I said after watching If, like, that movie would have been a huge hit in the era of the VHS. Because that movie would have been a colossal, like, oh, this would have been the movie that I would have gotten on VHS and I would have watched the fuck out of at home. Maybe I would have seen it in the theater, but I would have watched the fuck out of this movie at home and enjoyed the fuck out of it every time. And I just think that this is kind of a weird situation for this movie. Look, as much as I said I love the dynamic between them, there's just too much nonsense. It's like the plot is overlong. There's so much nonsense that happens, even in the plot of the mystery they're solving, the mystery they're trying to solve. And if you go beyond that, there's just this weird, like, I don't want to say, how do I put this? Too often, things go on way longer than they need to. And I remember hearing this, I think it was on the No Film School podcast. They were talking about how you can tighten up a movie, and that's kind of the issue with a lot of movies, is that you tighten them up too much. Like, there's a way to go into The Godfather and cut off time from every scene, but you'll lose something from it because you want to live in that world. That's not what's going on here. I'm just kind of like, can we just move on to the next thing? Because this is boring, and this is nonsensical. Like, the movie opens with this big action sequence that's kind of poorly shot and kind of hard to track, and just kind of like, because you don't know what's going on, it means nothing. The only significance is, I assume J.K. Simmons was in the first one, so I assume that's supposed to be your attachment to it. But beyond that, it's like, okay, cool, move on to the next thing, I guess. And then it's like, first of all, it takes so long to get to Ben Affleck, but then it gets so long to get to Jon Bernthal, and that's where the real heart of the movie really works, is these two characters playing off of each other. But the issue is, it's like, there are so many sequences that are just like so long that this did not need to be this long. The sequence where they're hacking to get the picture of Daniela Pineda, who I still think would be great in a Mercenaries movie, if they ever want to make a Mercenaries movie. That sequence did not need to go on nearly as long as it did. And Cynthia Dye Robinson, who I liked as Amanda Waller, and that's really my only cultural touchstone for her. I'm sure if I looked through her Wikipedia page, I'd find more things that I've known her from. But that's the thing where I'm like, oh, okay, I know her from that. I liked her Waller. She got done dirty by Mark Guggenheim, as a great many people on that show did. And the issue is, it's like, she is just kind of like weirdly, what's the word for here? Like, you know, she doesn't want them to continue hacking, but at the same time, she is kind of like, no, don't, we have to stop this, but does nothing actively to try and stop it. She just like, stop it. And then it's like, oh, well, we got it. All right, moving on. And it's such a weird thing. And then, like, randomly, it's like, oh, and Jon Bernthal behind some of the murders, and that's just never really touched on again. Like, there are so many things, like, that goes on too long, the opening sequence goes on too long, the sequence in the bar goes on too long, with the dancing, that goes on way too long. You could have done a shorter song and had a similar effect. There's so much that just didn't work. And it's just like, this movie's 2 hours and 14 minutes. It could have been a lot shorter. It could have been a tight 2 hours. A tight hour 45. Like, again, I don't know if Jon Bernthal was in the first one. If he was in the first one, I feel like we don't need to do as much as we did here with what he's trying, like, with them trying to, like, and that's the other thing, too. It's like the same thing with the, you know, with Jon Bernthal's arc, Braxton. Like, he's trying to get a dog in the beginning. There's an object. He's trying to get a dog. And he's impatient trying to get this dog. And then, halfway through the movie, you get this moment where he's talking to Chris, who's Ben Affleck, if you're unfamiliar, and they're talking, and they're having this conversation, and he's like, you want to get a dog? Okay, cool. Do you have set hours? Do you have... Okay, well, you don't really want a dog, then you want a cat. You have to come to terms with the fact that you can't have the life you thought you had. Okay, cool. And then you get to the end, and there we go, he has a cat. Okay, great. And again, using physical objects to denote the passage of the plot of character arcs does not mean a character arc is happening. Because, again, he hasn't learned anything in the movie to make that mean something. And that's what needs to happen. This is a movie that I will say, maybe... I would not see this at a theater, I don't think. And I think the other issue is, a lot of times the music is mixed too loud. I saw it in Dolby, and like, yeah, you're going to get loud gunshots and all that, I get that. The music is sometimes too loud to the point that you can't hear conversation, and it's not for effect either. The other thing they do is when characters are speaking Spanish, because that's the other thing here, is that it's weirdly like there's a lot of stuff having to do with illegal immigration and human trafficking and all of that, which seems to be the bread and butter for Amazon, between them hosting Sound of Freedom, between every Jason Statham and Jason Statham and David Ayer movie. It's just kind of like, this is what they do now. And the thing with this, as I'm watching it, is they have these characters who are speaking Spanish. If you have characters who are speaking another language and you don't use subtitles, that's a great way to keep the audience in the dark about what's happening, unless they speak the language. It's a way to keep the audience in the dark of the motivations while still laying out normal conversation. And I think that is it's a useful device. If the characters are speaking Spanish and it's information that the characters in the scene need to know, the audience needs to know it too. Like, I know a little bit of Spanish, not enough to carry me through this movie. Like, there's no reason why they don't have subtitles. I can't think of a good reason why you wouldn't put subtitles there, because it's like, both Braxton and Chris speak Spanish. So, they're not in the dark. So, why should the audience be in the dark? It creates a weird extra layer to these scenes where it's like, just put subtitles up. I don't need subtitles for everything, but there's a specific scene where it's like, it's in the trailer, where you have the three girls who are being human trafficked, and they're having this conversation, the three of them, in front of these two guys, and they're they're talking in Spanish, and you can pick out pieces, and you can kind of understand some things, but there's not enough going on in the scene where it's like, just tell me what they're saying, because no one is in the dark about what's going on here except the viewer, which you shouldn't leave the viewer in the dark unless it's by design. And that's the thing, is that there's no payoff to that either. Like, there's no payoff to that. And then there's another thing, this will be the last thing we go out on because I'm almost home. There's a thing throughout the movie that I don't think they ever pay off on, where in that scene, the girl who stays behind to give them the information for Tomas so they can call him to get him there so they can fuck him up and kidnap him, she says as she's leaving, I don't have kids. Is the payoff to that they're keeping these girls... I guess the implication is they're keeping these girls docile by holding their children captive. Was that meant to be it? Like, is that the only thing there? And that's like, oh, that's why she stayed back, because they didn't have a kid to hold captive? Like, it feels like an oversight by this robust criminal organization that's engaging in human trafficking, using one thing to hold people in check, to not have everyone held in check by that. Like, it's such a stupid... Like, it's a plot hole at that point. Because, like, if you're saying that, like, the thing they use to keep these women from stepping out of bounds is they have their children hostage, why would you have any that don't have children there? It's such a stupid, like... I don't know. And the guy at the end is like, if you think someone's coming to kill you, you don't leave your gun in another room. I don't know. The whole thing's kind of nonsensical. I don't see this. I think it should be worth watching at home. I don't think it's worth watching in a theater. But we'll wrap up there for today. Tomorrow we will be seeing On Swift Horses, the new movie with, I think Jacob Elordi's in it, and Daisy Edgar-Jones and Sasha Callie. But until then, have a great rest of your week.